It's been a minute, but I promise this is going to be worth the wait. I just did my first interview. My first podcast interview is coming up. This is episode 12. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tim Adkins Does Digital podcast. My name is Tim Adkins, and just like I mentioned just a minute ago, I just did my first podcast interview. I'm really excited. My interview this week is with Dustin Mankin. Dustin is the brains and the talent behind Exite Video Magazine, which is a YouTube and digital channel based out of Japan that focuses on Japanese car culture and life in Japan. Now, in this episode, we talk about how he got his start, what it took to move from Central Appalachia to a place half a world away, and he even changed my mind a little bit on the value of disappearing digital content. So let's get right to it. Here's the interview with Dustin Mankin of Exite Video Magazine. All right, everybody, I am really excited about this one. This is the very first interview that I have done on the Tim Adkins Does Digital podcast, and I could think of no better person to really do this for my first interview than somebody that I'm really excited about, and somebody that really takes their passion for what they're doing, has really developed a niche audience and developed something that they're passionate about, and really gone through a lot of just really went the extra mile in the passion thing. Without further ado, going to introduce to you Dustin Mankin. Dustin Mankin is the CEO, I guess, the creator of Exite Video Magazine. Now, this whole interview, like I said, first time, this might be messy, but, I went to school with Dustin, and, we went to, well, I won't say the campus, but this might be messy. Should probably have been on both of our diplomas. This probably should have been like the slogan, of our university. I think you may agree. I don't know. Think so?
Oh, I tell you what, I got some slogans for that place, but I don't think we can. I don't think we can put that on the podcast.
I bet you do, but you know what? It's a family show, and we even discussed that before the interview. We said, "Okay, let's try to keep it clean a little bit." So
I'm going to try my best.
and of course, I'm going to start out with, throwing him a softball and saying, "See if you can go through this without coming up with some creative slogans." Anyway, okay, so Dustin Mankin is, like I said, the creator at Excite Video Magazine. If you are not a gearhead, and even if you are, you definitely have to check out this channel. But if you're not, check it out anyway, because I'm not either. But man, this stuff is, and what the kids say, it's like fire. It really is. It's really cool. I am constantly, like I said, well, I'm going to check out what Dustin's doing, and I'll check out a video, and then 3 hours later, I'm still watching Dustin's videos. And like I said, I'm not even a gearhead, but the videos are so awesome. So I'm going to shut up and let him talk about, first off, what is Excite Video Magazine, Dustin? What is it all about? And what got you involved to begin with in launching the channel?
All right. Excite Video Magazine it's kind of my YouTube channel, but I'm on other social platforms as well. But it's all about Japanese car culture, drift culture. And to me, a problem with a lot of people that say they're in the Japanese culture is, not Japanese culture, but Japanese car culture, is they don't get everything quite right. All their images of Japanese car culture either comes from magazines or other media outlets where hyping up the culture is the key to get people paying attention. And, you have stuff like in Japanese, it's called Wild Speed, but Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift. It was a great movie. It's actually one of my favorite movies in the whole series, but it's so misleading to what Japanese car culture and what Japanese culture really is. So,
how so? What's? I was just kind of interested in what's misleading about it, in your opinion.
And a lot of it comes from living in Japan, but just the way the characters act and the way that some of the stuff goes down, especially the thing where there's a point when they're racing on the highway and Han says, if you go over 180 kilometers per hour, they don't chase you because you can't.
Hmm.
That I don't even think that was true when that movie was made, because I'll tell you one thing, they have speed cameras all over the place here.
Uh-huh.
And the speed cameras, it takes a picture of your car, it takes a picture of your face. Like, I mean, it's got a wide lens and a telephoto lens, and it tries to get your face and the car, and then there's no way you can deny it, right? Yeah, that's my car, but I wasn't. Oh, really? Does your wife have a red beard? Oh, yeah. Sorry, you got me. Okay.
Does your wife have a red beard?
But, but all the cars, all the police cars, all the police bikes, everything, they all have cameras. So, the technology, even in the United States, the technology makes it almost impossible to get away with speeding whenever you're busted with however they're going to do it. So, little inaccuracies like that. Since I live in Japan, the license plates on the backs, they had Japanese license plates, but if you look at like the blue RX-8 in that movie, it has a green license plate with white numbers. That's really big. That's for dump trucks and hauler trucks. So they have some cars with the yellow plates that are made for small cars, and in America they would be small cars, but they don't meet the criteria to be a Japanese small car with the government and stuff. So probably nitpicky, but
a little bit, but it goes into a lot of, attention to detail and, are you driving a plot or are you actually being authentic? And I think what you bring to the table when you're talking about Japanese drift culture is, there's a lot of, people who are attracted to it because of, these movies and because of Gran Turismo, which is something that I love to play.
Gran Turismo was a big one for me.
The minute I get it, I'm like, that's one of the first games I always get. Is like, I've got to have the Gran Turismo. I suck at it. I'm horrible at the game. But I love it because the cars are really nice. And what's really cool from me being like a video gamer is like seeing the cars that I see on the video games and you're presenting them in real life and having that background, is kind of cool because, like I said, you bring the authenticity to it. So, and that's what I like about your channel is just being authentic. You're not trying to be somebody else. That I think that the unique perspective that you bring is that you're an American who is actually living in Japan and actually into the culture. How did you first get started with Japanese drift culture in the first place? Because you guys don't know, but Dustin and I are both from Appalachia, okay? Like the dead center of Appalachia. You can't tell from either of our accents. And don't try to say that you can, because you can't.
You can't.
We both were trained. We were trained, by golly. So, but in any case, so how does somebody go from our part of Appalachia, half a world away, to Japan to cover Japanese drift culture? How do you get started with that? And what was it about your passion that actually made you take that jump? Because a lot of people in our area, they don't really even go, Canova is like, big for them. So what made you do that? I mean, God, it must have like taken huge guts to actually go through with it.
Okay, so I have to preface this by going way back and saying when I was growing up, my grandfather, he used to be a mechanic and he was a welder by trade, but hands-on guy, blue collar, working class. When stuff broke, we fixed it at the house. So I did grow up around fixing cars my entire life. I wasn't necessarily like a car guy, but I loved to be in the garage with my grandpa. Then when I became closer to driving age, I did get my first car, which was a classic that we bought and we restored together. So for 1 year before I got my license, I spent every day after school either shooting guns with my grandfather or rebuilding this car. But, that did keep me into cars. And I noticed when I was in high school, because a lot of my friends had mini trucks and they would get all of the car audio magazines. Mm-hmm. And I started to see like Honda Civics and, Honda Accords and stuff like that. And they had these really cool body kits and a lot of graphics. They were very, visually, they were very loud. Anybody that knows anything about car culture, like the late 90s, early 2000s, those were like the loudest cars compared to like probably since like the old lowrider scene.
Mm-hmm.
I had a classic car, and we pretty much did all the building to it, and I couldn't really do anything else to it at that time, So I really got excited about these, and that's what kind of led me into Japanese cars. And probably around 2001, I think the first Fast and Furious came out, and that kind of kicked off the whole street racer culture.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was like a progression towards me having Japanese cars and wanting to see more Japanese tuning styles. Like, this was before the internet, guys. The internet was here, but like, it was like Ask Jeeves.
We are old people. You had
to put stuff in quotes if you wanted to keep that search together. If you didn't put it in quotes,
you're confusing the kids, Dustin. Ask Jeeves. What?
Yahoo? Yahoo is still prevalent in Japan, by the way.
What's that?
They don't use Google in Japan so much. It's still mainly Yahoo. Yeah, I mean, Google is starting to make entry into the market probably, within the last 5 years. But most Japanese people, when I notice them doing a search, it's Yahoo. And they don't have. I don't think they have eBay here. I've never used eBay in Japan. We use Yahoo Auctions. So
right, okay.
So yeah, just that's a sidebar. But
well, that is interesting though. That really is. You threw me with the Ask Jeeves thing.
Yeah, as I'm old, I remember not stealing, but I remember taking the AOL free internet discs and formatting them so I could get free store.
Oh my God! Yes, you and I understand that. Old tech heads. I mean,
AOL stuff. Grabbed 5 of them and put them in my pocket.
I mean, every week I was getting like net zero. It's like come get up and put this disc in. I mean, Kmart was like, hey, we have a blue light special internet. And I wore that out.
I think most of mine came from Kmart too. So. Wow.
Oh gosh. Okay, get off.
This is going to turn into Tim Adkins Does Archaeology. Anyways. But
okay, where were we?
Cars. I was into Japanese tuning styles, and like I said, this was before the internet, so we would only get like some magazines, and maybe every 3 or 4 months there would be like 2 pages with some cars, and I was just like, I just became obsessed with finding out how these people were tuning their cars, because it was completely different from the American style. The American style was still very loud, very splashy, more. I don't know. There was like function guys, but there was a lot of form. And the Japanese style at that time just seemed much more form. Like, if it works for racing, everything was for the purpose of going faster.
Ah, okay, yeah.
At least in the magazines that we were being showed. They do have a styling culture too, but at the time, it was all about highway racing and stuff. So that got me really, really interested. And I just became obsessed. There was an anime called Initial D, and this was before streaming illegal anime and stuff. So you would have to download them on Napster or LimeWire. So you would actually have to give your computer AIDS just to watch a couple episodes of anime.
Exactly.
But so this got me to like, I have to go. I have to go. And me and a buddy, we were going to go in January to go to the big it's called Tokyo Auto Salon. It's like the SEMA of Japan, which is where all the aftermarket companies, and they take all their aftermarket products and everything and show off their builds and everything. It's the biggest event for aftermarket car show stuff in Japan. Mm-hmm. And we missed the mark. We were like, in December, like, it's in January, let's save the money and go. And then we were like, you know what, that's not going to happen. Let's go to March. So in March of 2007, I went to Japan for a month, and that was really cool. And I only had a 2-year degree at the time. And when I left, I was like, I need a 4-year degree to get a work visa here. And that's really the whole reason I went back to school to finish my 4-year, was just to get the work visa. So in all this time, like, being interested in cars, and you just keep seeing more and more cars. And then drifting was huge in Japan at the time. And it was just coming over to America probably around 2000 to 2003 or 4 was really the early years in America. And, I just fell in love with it. And I never really shook wanting to go. but I am just so slow. I'm a procrastinator, and I was like, I don't really want to go to school, So I'll go to school for a quarter, then I'll stop for a quarter, and then I'll go for a quarter, and eventually, I did get my degree, and I met my what would become my wife online. I'd already decided I wanted to go. I had a bad relationship, and I almost sealed the deal with that one. And after that was over, I was like, wow, man. I was like, you haven't even began to live your dreams yet, and you were ready to just settle for the mundane life. I was in debt, guys. So like, look, if you're in debt, just you can still do. You got to think about it, but you can still do it. I was in debt. I think I owed like $21,000 on my credit card. Lucky for me, my family is a nostalgic family, and they kept all of my GI Joes, my Ninja Turtles, and stuff like that in the attic. And I was also a huge retro gamer, so I literally had everything from the Commodore 64 up until like the 360.
You are speaking my language. Like the more you talk about this stuff.
I just like, it was one of those things where friends would be like, hey, I got this old game system, and I know you're a retro gamer. And, if you give me $20 for it, I think it's got like 10 games with it. And, I would just acquire systems like that, and I would buy bulk on eBay, because sometimes you can find that rare game inside that thing, and either people gloss over it or people aren't searching for it because it's mixed into a lot. And that's how I got a lot of stuff cheap. But I had a huge collection, and I'm a car guy, so obviously I had a ton of Hot Wheels. I think I probably had like 600 or 700 Hot Wheels still in the box.
Wow.
I literally, for the last year, I decided I'm going to Japan, and retro toys were hot. They still are hot, and I just thought, you know what, I think I'm going to sell my childhood.
Wow. That must have been tough, though.
Attempt to live my future. It kind of is. And there's still some stuff, like probably if I come back to America, I'll be on eBay overpaying for some of those things. I didn't have my name written on anything in Sharpie. And actually, I was an accessory Nazi. Like, I would do inventory after every play session. So I really think out of my 50 G.I. Joe characters, and the 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe figures, they all came with like 10 accessories. And
Yeah.
I think there was only.
I just don't know too much about G.I. Joe, so I'm going to take your word on that. I mean, I had one, but I don't know. I think I kind of dismembered it or something.
The rubber band broke in the way. But I think there was only like 3 characters incomplete. So like everything I had when I bought games, I don't buy games with names on them. So everything I had was actually something that a collector would probably want. I sold all of it. And incidentally, I made right around like total like $19,000 on eBay.
Wow.
And that was selling like all kinds of stuff, man. But the Hot Wheels were $1 a piece, but they were stuff that I bought like 12 years ago.
Right.
So in the box, like a normal car, those Hot Wheels really were like on average like a 7 or 8 time return on investment, because they were selling for at least like $8. And sometimes the ones that wouldn't sell, I'd put them in a lot with one good car and just try to get rid of them. But anyways, this isn't the eBay channel. But yeah, I did sell everything, and that was the point where I was like, you know what? I've got enough money to pay off my credit card and be like 0 debt. But this is my Japan money. So it's like, do I do the adult thing and go debt free, but live in a place that's actually making me really depressed? Or do I go for it? And I am an impulsive person because my ADHD. And I thought, man, you sold this stuff to go for it. Screw the debt. You can pay it down later. Go for it. And I went for it. And I did pay down my debt. I'm debt free in America.
Good.
I'm debt free.
Because we're not dealing out financial advice here, kids.
No,
Yeah.
no, but I
just go do what you want. Move to Japan.
it took me 5 years of mailing money back home, but I did it. And that put me in Japan, where I've always wanted to be. And I wanted to come here because of cars. I'm not, like, I did watch car-related anime, but that's it. Like, if it wasn't car-related, I didn't watch it. I'm a car guy.
Right.
I'm a car guy. And now that I'm here, I started going to some shows here and there. But I really always wanted to film drifting, but my Japanese language skills were crap. And
Did you know any Japanese before you went?
Nah.
None at all?
No, I knew like maybe like 10 words, and half of them were probably cuss words. Something you can't really say to somebody.
And we all do that, right? I don't know. I don't need to know how to count to 10. Just tell me, how to,
Hey, a great way to learn counting when you're in Japan is when you're at the convenience store, because the money is done, like they count it pretty much on the 1 cent scale.
Oh, really?
So instead of saying like $1, so let's say for easy comparison purposes, 100 yen is equal to $1, and I think right now it's 111 yen or something. So they'll tell you your price, and you'll see the number. So if you buy something that's like $10 or $15, it comes up like 1,500 something yen. Great way to watch the screen while they say it, and you can learn numbers pretty easy that way.
Oh, that makes sense. If they cuss at you, then you can also learn those things too.
You know what? I have learned those things over the years.
Right.
And they don't always, they're not usually cussing, but they don't always say nice things, but they think you can't hear it. So
anyway,
but you can.
So you kind of immersed yourself in the culture. You learned the language, and you started attending the shows. Tell me how you got involved with actually taping them and then actually putting them on YouTube and making a channel out of that.
Okay, so I went to certain university for digital media and broadcast journalism. Yeah, electronic media. Sorry, that's so long ago I forgot what I actually have a degree in. But I just took my camera because I'd already been filming like car shows and stuff, and I just thought, you know what? I looked up in one of the Drift magazines where the event was, and I went and I just started filming, and I didn't know anybody. And I just started filming it, and randomly one of the guys came up to me and asked me, like, are you a YouTuber? Because YouTubers are popular over here in Japan too. And
oh, okay.
I said, yeah. And that very day, I got some of my stickers on their car.
So you said, yeah, even though you weren't really a YouTuber at that point?
No, I was a YouTuber. I've actually had this YouTube channel. Let's see, so 7 years, and then I probably had this YouTube channel over 10 years, but just living in Kentucky, like everything's so far away. I mean, you might be posting a video once every 3 months, once every 6 months, because I was doing stuff for my builds and stuff, but also, most of the jobs in our area are not extremely well paying. So
right.
We don't have the money to buy enough parts, for me to do like a continuous weekly build series or something. I mean, I wanted to do that, but that wasn't a financially viable option.
Right. Wow. I didn't know you had been around that long. See, I was under the impression that you started the channel after you got to Japan. So you still have early footage from when you were back here.
I have another channel that was listed as Love Tap Racing Team. And that has some like 2003 stuff on it.
Wow.
Like some of the very first videos I ever did. And
that's ancient history, kids.
Yeah. and some of those videos were labeled Love Tap Racing Team. What is it? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying ask Jeeves. He'll tell you all about that.
Jeeves knows.
Yeah, Jeeves knows.
And he'll bring you a cigar too. In a stylish tuxedo.
Very stylish.
But yeah, some of those videos on the old channel were still labeled as Excite Video Magazine. I've had this name and this idea since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I mean, if I had to be really honest with you, like, and you'll probably have to cut this and put it in order because my ADHD causes me to run off in various places, and I'm sorry, but
no, I do that all the time too. And believe me, we're doing good so far. I may not cut anything out.
But
so far,
I feel like I should cuss right now, just so you have to cut something out.
Yes, daggone it! Now I'm going to have to go drop this in audition and start slicing things. Thanks a lot.
But no, like even the name Excite, and it's misspelled. It's just EXITE.
Mm-hmm.
And
Excite was another search engine, kids.
Oh yeah, that's true. It was, wasn't it?
It wasn't misspelled. It was with the C.
And the X was like a little guy with his arms in the air, wasn't
Yes, it was.
I remember that logo.
Thanks for reminding me. I didn't know that. I just
Internet
remembered the name.
archaeology.
Yeah, there you go.
But no, like even the name, like there's a cartooning magazine over here called Option. And like Option, like what? That's just such a weird name. Which when you know Japan now, I think the name became because like the factory dealer accessories are called Option parts in Japan. And I don't know if that ties into the name, but like Option is just such a weird name for a car magazine.
It is, isn't it?
You know, it's like, would you just go out and name like a motorcycle magazine Choice? You know, like just, just so random. So one of the Japanese words that they use a lot was exciting.
Okay.
You know, exciting car battle, exciting meeting, stuff like that. And I was just like, dude, Excite. But then, I know like there's a lot of English that's misspelled, right? Like always, like I notice it over here. There's a lot of English misspelled. And it's not their fault. It's just not their normal language. So it's just like the idiots that have water tattooed on their arm.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Exactly.
But so I misspelled it, Exite. And, eventually it got the new logo. It's not. But in most of the old logos, my X was stylized.
Yeah. Okay.
So like that was kind of the point. So even the name, comes from old Japanese magazines. It's a spoof off of old Japanese magazines. So I really, really, really have always loved Japanese car media culture. And it had a big influence on me.
Yeah. So you started doing the YouTube videos and of course, I don't want to be too harsh on our alma mater. I mean, we did learn quite a bit of things there. And
there were some great teachers there, great professors there too.
Yeah, the professors were very good.
Some bull crap.
Yeah, a little bit, but we did learn some things.
We met some great people, some great peers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We really did. We had some, our classmates, I mean, were just incredible. They were really good. And, even after I went to grad school and, did some grad school stuff, a lot of the people that I was involved with at grad school was like, where did you get your training for your undergrad? Because you know a little bit about this stuff. And so, this is where I went and these are the teachers that I had. They said, well, they were pretty impressed. But getting back to my point though, so you have the training, you have the equipment, and you're doing the YouTube thing. When do you finally start seeing that, hey, this is something that I think I'm going to be able to do that I'm going to get a whole lot of enjoyment out of? When did that start?
I've always liked making videos, right? Like, and, originally I was planning to make DVDs. My dream at the time was to travel to different shows all around the country. And that's why it was Video Magazine, because I was wanting to release a DVD like every 3 months.
Now, kids, DVDs are these little discs with like
depending on who
them.
you ask, it stands for digital video disc or digital versatile disc, depending on the source.
God, we're old, right?
I did want to deliver. Like, that's how long ago this was. Like,
yeah.
Like, I was wanting to deliver on physical media. And Netflix was like Netflix, but you still had the physical media.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Netflix started out doing that, just giving, you mail discs back and forth, yeah.
And while we're on this old school stuff, like originally, like back when YouTube was mainly cat videos and kids doing backflips off of trampolines and landing on the ground type of stuff, and it was like, YouTube was a really weird place. It was like the budget E-bombs world. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if instead of doing a DVD, you could do like a TV series, and I would just do my DVDs on YouTube. And, I wanted to do like a build series, and you would cover some products and stuff, just like in the magazine, but as a video format. And, I just didn't have the money to make it happen. But that was back in like 2009. I thought about that.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, if I would have done that and had like a regular show in 2009, I probably would be like a 4 million, 5 million subscriber channel.
Could be. Yeah.
Because nobody was doing serial content at the time. I just didn't have the means.
Right.
And, I'm not bitter about it. It is what it is.
Well, you make do with what you have. I mean, And believe me, I'm doing that now. So
I'm completely happy. Like, would I like to be doing full time YouTube and actually making money from doing what I love? Yeah, I think everybody wants to do what they enjoy doing, but I just enjoy doing it. And I've always enjoyed showing people my videos when I edit them. Back in the day, it would just be the friends and people in the car community, and we'd all come to the house and watch them. So I've always loved showing off the finished work.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that kind of goes to my other point, which is what we were kind of talking about before we started with the recording, is that what impresses me about your channel and about your approach is that you're not trying to stress out so much over numbers as much as you are about having a really dedicated niche audience who is as passionate as you are about the subject matter. And it's kind of having that. I really do appreciate and see that you respond to just about everybody. Whenever you can.
I try to. And like I think we talked about before, there was a glitch and I wasn't getting my notifications that people were commenting.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
I went like 3 months thinking people just stopped caring about commenting, and it kind of depressed me, but I was going to push on anyway. And then I went back and I noticed that there was comments from like 2 months ago, 3 months, and I'm like, what the heck is this? So I sent a strongly worded letter to YouTube being like, guys, I'm not making any money. I literally am embracing your mission statement. I just enjoy the community.
And you are not monetized right now, am I right?
I'm not monetized. I just hit 1,000. I don't know, like a couple of weeks ago. I'm up to like 1,024, and I'm pretty sure my minutes are probably okay. My view time is probably okay. I could probably monetize if I wanted to, but I average about 150, 250 views per video.
Right.
And it's just not worth hassling my viewers to collect $12 a month or something, in AdSense revenue.
That really makes sense.
I do want to monetize at some point. Like, if I hit, I keep telling myself if I hit like 2,000 or 3,000 and I can get my average views up to like 1,000 per video, I would probably monetize at that point, because if I could make $200 or $300 a year, that would cover my traveling costs.
That's true. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm at a loss. I'm actually operating at a loss. I just love doing it.
Yeah, it's a passion thing, of course.
YouTube has to be. Like, if you're in YouTube for the money, and I know Roberto Blake has talked about it. I've never heard Gary Vee hit on it, but, Roberto stresses it nonstop. If you don't have a passion for YouTube, you're going to fail. And he's not lying.
That's true. Yeah.
So, I just love doing it. I've actually made a lot of friends through it, and people that, I still call my friends.
Yes. That kind of gets me right to my next point, which is, tell me a little bit about your audience, because your audience, you don't have a huge audience, but the audience that you do have, man, they comment all the time, and they're, they seem like they're very supportive. Tell me a little bit about your audience and about the person that would be attracted to your channel.
Okay. So first off, I just want to say that I have the best audience. My people that watch my videos, they're very dedicated.
Even the ones that call you the mumbling lumberjack, right?
Yeah. You know what? If you're attracting haters, you're moving in the right direction. And I have one hater. I have one hater, so I must be a little bit off the path still. I gotta readjust to get more haters.
A hater who thinks you chop down trees and.
So yeah, and I'm like, I don't know why he's calling me a mumbling lumberjack. Like, okay, look.
But I love how you embraced it, though, because if you see some of Dustin's videos, like later on, I mean, it's right there on the screen. He'll like ding, mumbling lumberjack with an arrow. I love the way that you embrace that.
I don't want to hate on a particular region of people, because I have a lot of friends from that region also.
Like the Pacific Northwest? What?
A certain place in the southern hemisphere of the world where the toilets flush backwards.
I see. Okay.
The Outbacks come from. Not really, because that's Subaru is Japanese. But
okay, you're talking about the hater. It was from that area.
Yeah,
he was
from there, but then I mumble.
Right.
I got you. But no, I have a great audience, and I have people from all over the world that watch my channels. And I really try to be real with people. And I think that if you're real with people, then they're going to be real back with you. And I think that that's what builds a serious, strong audience. And I've had some people like, if somebody's like, well, this fact's not right, you're an idiot or something. And I'll be like, you know what? I did more research and it was wrong and I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you just got to eat crow. And, sometimes people need to learn how to talk to people.
Right.
Instead of being like, hey, idiot, you're stupid. This is wrong. Kill yourself. How about, hey, man, that's not quite right. Like,
yeah, YouTube comments, they're not known for their civility. But at the same time, you can learn some things, I guess, once you get past the, hey, idiot part, right?
And I try to not respond angrily because, one, I want to keep my community standards.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I'm a really big proponent of free speech.
Yes.
So even if I don't like how they're wording it, and even though I think that how they word stuff makes them appear as an unintelligent life form,
right?
They have a right to speak their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And free speech also means that I have a responsibility to listen to stuff that I don't want to hear.
Wow, that's really open-minded. Not a whole lot of YouTubers do have that approach.
No, and I could probably shut some people down. And if it really got really abusive, I probably would actually click the link and make them a blocked user.
Sure. And Roberto talks about that a lot too. He says, you know what, go ahead and block your haters if they're getting on your nerves. You don't
say a couple pieces, make a string of it. It boosts you because you have more comments on your video. So I mean, they can say all the negative stuff they want. They're still helping you grow.
Exactly. Yes, they are. That's true. It's all the numbers game. It's all the analytics and all of that. Yeah.
I will say that my wife is in my videos sometimes, like when we do vlogs and stuff like that.
I gotta say, I love it when she's in your videos. I really do.
Everybody's always like, "When's Shino coming back?"
She has such personality, and she's just
she's a great person. That's why I married her.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She puts up with me. But I do have to say that if somebody, and they never have, nobody ever has, but if anybody ever come on and said something bad about my wife, I would not even respond. I would block them immediately.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't care what anybody says about me, because I got made fun of almost all the way through junior high school. And then I got really tall and people left me alone for some reason. But, but I spent my whole life with bullying, and I could take a punch and I can dish one out.
Right.
But if you make fun of my family, I'll block you. I won't even entertain it. But I have a great audience, so I typically don't have to worry about that. And sometimes in the Facebook Messenger, we actually make fun of the haters behind their back.
Yeah.
So
that's a great way to do
that's another thing. A lot of my best fans on YouTube, a lot of my supporters, they either were already on my Facebook account, my personal Facebook account, and migrated over, or they were on my Facebook, and through talking, we've become friends on Facebook.
Cool.
So really, really drawn to my community. Like, that's a key point, guys. Community.
Absolutely. It's social media.
Be loyal to them, and they'll be loyal to you.
And I think people forget that. It's social media. You're supposed to be social, and sometimes there are rules involved whenever you're, in a social construct. I think sometimes people forget that. It is really all about community. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because we were talking about audience and pointing things out, and, maybe people who point things out to you, things that you didn't know. And what we talked about, we had a conversation like last week, and we talked for like an hour and a half about
it was a long conversation.
And I was talking about I can't remember what podcast episode it was, but I was talking about how I wasn't really a big fan of disappearing content, about how I'm just not bought into it. And I don't think it's really worth the time or the effort right now to get involved with that. And, maybe somebody could prove me wrong about that, but that's just how I saw it. And then I guess the whole point of you calling me at this point was like, hey, Tim, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to interact with you as soon as I heard it. Like I was like, I wish I was a guest on this podcast.
Yeah.
Just for like 2 minutes, just so I could.
And here we are at 42 minutes and 30 seconds. And now we're going to talk about what you wanted to talk about as a guest on my podcast. But you were talking about disappearing content and the worth of it, and kind of made me think. Tell me about what you were saying to me about that.
Okay, so in the podcast, you had kind of talked, for lack of a better word, negatively about disappearing content. And one thing that I wanted to stress is, especially within the car community, car parts companies, but this probably extends to other people who sell a physical product. They have asked their, I guess, customers. These days, customer supporters and fans it's kind of blurring, but they will ask the people that use their products and interact with them socially to take a picture of the product. And if they tag that company, then the company will put it on their stories feed. The cool thing about that is you're not actually paying a dime as a company. You're actually making money because they bought your part. Mm-hmm. And the only difference to that would be like as if you have a sponsorship deal with an influencer, but hopefully that's a net positive for you in the long run. Your customer takes a picture of the part and they're excited because they want to use your part or your product, and they tag you in it. Then you put it in your story, and that makes them get excited, and that concretes their loyalty to you.
Right. Yeah.
And then on top of that, they're going to be like, look, such and such turbos used a picture of my turbo install. And then people will be like going to that because they're going to be sharing it like crazy because they want people to know that the company that they bought their parts from likes their picture and their install so much that they shared it to their page, which brings other people in.
Yes.
And, like social is almost like fishing with a net.
Yeah.
You just got to cast it, and a lot of fish will come into the net. Some of them will fall out. Some of them will come into the boat. And then when they come in the boat, some of the fish are worth selling. Some of them are not worth selling. So the more you can call, I think the better. And you know what? You're the social media strategist. So that might be completely off base, but
no, actually that is right on point. It really is. And I think that even with stories, I think it is more immediate. And I think that's great. You've convinced me because I'm thinking, that is absolutely a good point, that, it's immediate and it's disappearing. So you've got to catch it right away. And the brand loyalty part of it is if a brand is actually taking their fans' content and repurposing it, which is what social media content, experts will tell people all the time, repurpose user content in order to, help out. But the fact that it's disappearing makes it all more worthwhile because you better catch it now because it's going to be gone in, an hour or what have you.
And sometimes I get into that. Like somebody will send me a story and by the time I can respond, it's gone. And then I'm like, crap, what did I miss? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
But you can still see who it was shared from. Mm-hmm. Right. So it'll still say like Speed Hunters and you're like, oh man, I missed something from Speed Hunters.
Yeah. So you make sure that you don't do it the next time. Yeah.
It's almost like the social media version of Supreme.
Okay. Explain that. And other people, you guys, about Supreme. I've seen the logo. I don't know a thing about it.
It's basically, they were basically a skate shop in New York.
Okay.
And this is as far as I know. So guys, if I'm wrong about it, please don't hate me. I'm kind of old, so I'm not with all the hip stuff. I'm looking for how to pair Oxfords with Levi dark jeans as my fashion wardrobe right now because I'm taking the next step. But Supreme was a New York skate shop. Uh-huh. And from what I understand, from what I read about the history, they produced stuff in limited numbers at one time, not out of a purposeful marketing strategy, but it's probably like me. Like when I make a t-shirt, I have enough money to make like 10 t-shirts, so it's rare, but not because I'm like, look, my stuff's rare. If you're cool, you can get it. Like, it's just like, I don't have any more money.
Right.
And then that's kind of where they were. But that scarcity thing literally became their brand. Like they have drops. Like that's how their store operates. And some of the stuff that they sell, I'm like, really? Like they just put like a red little Supreme logo on something and then they have like 10 of them. and people come in and buy them for like, how many ever dollars, and then they sell it on eBay like back to back, like 10 times more than what they pay because it's a scarcity culture. And
yes.
that's always worked in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a salesman I was working in the mall at the DVD and CD shop, and that was their main tactic. It was like the deal might not be here tomorrow, or the DVD or CD might be gone, and by the time we restock it, that deal might be over. So if you're thinking about leaving without it, you might cost yourself, and that scares people.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a psychological thing that you could probably do organic reach and organic content through user created stuff on Facebook or Twitter too, but it's really not the same effect because it's still going to be there, a week later. And if you scroll down long enough, you can still find it.
Like when I go through stories, like I look for the people that I like are up front, obviously, because I always look at their stories. But I like to clear my story cache. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm that guy. So I'll go through and click. And guys, please stop putting 64 stories within a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
But you look at everything, even if it's for a fleeting moment. Mm-hmm. So if you realize people look like that, and you're probably not at the forefront of most people's stories feed. You know what I'm saying? Like on average, you're probably back there. Think about it. This just came to me. But maybe take a subliminal approach.
What do you mean?
Like if you could put your logos up, because like when I'm tapping through stories after I get through the 10, 15 people that I actually care about, I'm just trying to clear that cache. So each image is flashing up fast.
Right.
So you might want to take a subliminal approach. Like it's just going to flash up in their face for a minute.
Right. Okay.
But if you can plan a subliminal,
yeah,
and I believe subliminals work. I'm one of those people. I know some people don't, but I think they do.
Blipverts. Did you ever watch Max Headroom, the show? And they were talking about Blipverts and talking about like subliminal messaging and things like that.
When I was really young, I remember the weird blonde-headed guy with sunglasses whose head floated around the screen, but I really didn't watch it because I was just waiting for He-Man.
Yeah.
Come on, man. What is this weird dude? Can I get He-Man, please? Max is a little bit before my time. That's what I think is definitely – those are things to think about with disappearing social. And you know what? I don't have a lot of followers, so I might be completely wrong.
Yes, but the way that you've built it is really the impressive part, which is what I was going to ask you. Like other YouTubers, you may give different advice than some other experts when you're talking about growing a YouTube channel. Let's say that there's somebody else out there who wants to grow a YouTube channel, but they would rather do it using your approach, which is do it slowly, develop an audience that is really dedicated to what you're doing. It may not be the largest audience in the world, but it's a very loyal audience. And it's an audience that interacts with one another and interacts with you as well. Do you have any tips on how someone would go about doing that?
Yeah, like be authentic.
Yeah.
Like be you. Like, and that's the worst thing. That's the worst thing. We were talking about not cussing. We'll go back to not cussing. And I told you I don't cuss too much on my YouTube. And when I do, I usually bleep it out, but sometimes I let some slip through on purpose. Like I know it's in there, but
yeah, and believe me, I mean, you guys who are listening, you didn't hear the conversation we had before, like last week.
If you let an S word or a D word slip every once in a while, you're probably not going to get dinged for community standards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, if you're letting it fly all the time, and you know what? Sometimes when I'm talking and stuff and I'm pausing, I pause for two reasons in my videos. One, it makes it easier for me to cut around.
Right. Yeah, I should do that.
I live in Japan, so when I teach English, I have to speak slowly.
Right.
So my speaking has actually naturally progressed to be slower over time. And probably when I live back in America, it will pick back up. But, that's another thing. So I speak slowly and I don't cuss because that gives me editing options. And the not cussing keeps me in with community guidelines. I don't want to get flagged because I'm small anyways. So I can't afford to get flagged and not be not going back to the net. I can't afford to not have the widest net possible
Right.
being cast because cars is a very small niche. Anyway, it's not like games or something like that.
Right.
So, and even though it's small, they already have their dedicated people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's already like million subscriber channels and stuff out there for cars. So, when people are like, who's your favorite car YouTuber? I always go through the threads and I never see my name, but,
But you will though. I mean, and that's another thing. I mean, you've gotten mentions that you've had over the past few months because, sometimes you tell me that you say, hey, I've got some mentions here and there. Very exciting whenever that happens. And when you keep
some
it
of the big
authentic,
people don't comment.
yeah. And when you keep it authentic and when you keep it real, I've heard, like you've said, so-and-so has mentioned me or so-and-so commented and, we had this kind of a conversation. And I think that's the thing that really kind of excites you. If hope I'm reading this right, is the interaction. Am I right?
No, that's it. Like the interaction is key. And, sometimes like that's what I was saying just a second ago when I rudely attempted to cut you off. But, sometimes people will be like, I have one friend. Actually, I have two friends that are kind of bigger YouTubers, and one is in Japan with me. And the other one, he's in America, and he does like a build series and stuff. And he's like, did you know that this company and this company watches your videos?
Wow.
And I was just like, what? I was like, I've never seen it. And they're like, no, they don't comment on people's videos. But I know these people because I have a sponsorship through them.
No kidding.
Yeah. So it's really cool. And it's like, I had messaged them before about sending stickers. I've been dealing with this company since I lived in America. Like they're based in Florida, and I only order my car parts from them unless they don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so cool that a company that I've been a fan of and that I've supported by being a customer for many years actually watches my videos, even if I don't get to interact with them. And I've messaged a couple of people, and we've had short messages back and forth, but they're busy.
Right.
And our time differences don't allow usually long conversations when you run a business because they have to be up early.
Yes, I know. I mean, it's 11:30 at night right now where I'm sitting here in, Appalachian paradise, right? And Dustin is in Japan right now.
12:31 in the land of the rising sun.
Yeah, where it's morning. Yeah.
On Friday.
But that's the great thing about this whole thing, isn't it? Is that, you can have a worldwide audience. You can talk to people across the globe. It really is just an amazing thing. What's in the future for you as far as developing Excite Video Magazine? And, you've got some, and if you haven't checked out the channel, the car stuff is awesome, but he also has like a video blog where he talks about like just general living in Japan as he does. And that's really, really interesting too. So definitely check those out.
I would like to start doing more of those type of videos because honestly, I'm not for sure. Like I'm, making some life decisions with my wife about what will be best for us and the family.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if my Japanese situation will be permanent. I've lived here this is my 7th year living in Japan now. So, I don't know if it's going to be permanent, and I will take those experiences with me one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I'm really wanting to up our travel vlogs and our daily life vlogs. One, because I didn't think it would be that interesting when I started doing them. I just did them because it was filler,
right?
To keep my algorithm going.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of my people that are car people, then I thought like, oh, it's not a car video. What the heck is this? He's eating some rice. Like, like.
You do eat a lot in those videos. I've noticed that.
I do. In the travel videos, I always try to eat because I'll tell you why. Is one, I'm fat, and two, in Japan they have a lot of limited time stuff. So if you were a foodie or food vlogger and you lived in Japan for, let's say, 2 or 3 years, there's a high chance that you could have brand new and interesting foods like every week on your show.
Wow. Yeah.
And sometimes like you don't get alerted. It's happened to me a lot of times, like my favorite thing. And I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to go in and get this flavor of rice ball.
Uh-huh.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
And I'll be asking them like, hey, is it just out of stock? Like, oh no, it's over. It's like crap. Like, like if I would have known it was the last one that I was ever going to eat.
Yeah.
I would have enjoyed like that KFC right before the electric chair is probably the best tasting KFC you'll ever eat in your life.
There you go. Yeah.
But so like, yeah, like I do eat a lot because there's always interesting food, and food is a culture now. Like,
Yes,
it's
it
not just
is.
something that you eat. Like, people love food, and I didn't think people would like those vlogs so much. And I do try to do some car spotting. Like, if I see a cool car in a parking lot or something, I do always try to work cars in somewhere
Mm-hmm.
because that's the theme of the channel.
Right.
But I went to a castle with my wife, and I think the video was like a quarter of it was about the train system and riding the train. A quarter of it was the castle. A lot of it was walking around. And maybe only like out of a 20-minute video, maybe a total of a minute and a half, 2 minutes was car content, and it was towards the back. But I wanted to put that in.
So is your audience responding like your audience that comes in looking for car content? Are they responding well to the other stuff?
Yeah, like they're like, hey, I want to see more about Japan. And it's like, just, I didn't think, because I'm not like a travel channel, like that's not my main thing. But I think the thing about how I said before, a lot of the mainstream media, they promote this weird, funky, over the top caricature of Japan.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to try to show the real Japan, because it was kind of a shock when I came.
I think what I'm getting from you is that your mission really in doing all this, just besides the fact that you really enjoy it, is that you want to put out the authentic representation of what this actually is.
That's true. That's true. And, to the point that, we talked before about people saying, hey, you made a mistake. I'm genuinely sorry. When I give out misinformation, I'm genuinely sorry, because that's not the type of media outlet.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the type of person that I want to present myself as. So even the outlandish stuff that I say, I'm trying to keep it grounded in truth, because I really like, there's so much misinformation in today's culture.
Yeah. And people come to your channel for that authenticity because it's refreshing, I would think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So,
but tell everybody, if they wanted to check out Excite Video Magazine, where would they go and how would they go about it?
All right. On YouTube, just search for Excite Video Magazine, and it's EXITE.
Right.
Video Magazine. And if you search for all one word, then it will come up with my channel as the first one. I am on Instagram at Excite Video Magazine. All one word.
All one word.
I'm on Twitter, Excite_VM.
Okay.
That's my Twitter account. And I am on Instagram at Facebook.com/Excite Video Magazine. And you will probably have my name on the podcast. So if you are really interested in cars, you can feel free to send me a personal Facebook request too, because I do post a lot of my previews and a lot of behind the scenes stuff on my Facebook.
Right.
Because I'm not ashamed of what I'm doing. There's no reason to be.
In fact, I've told him that. I said, I'm the expert. Put some stuff on Facebook.
My life is cars. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, that's really who I am.
Right. And it's Dustin is Dustin, and then Mankin, Mankin, by the way. You don't want to misspell that, because I don't know any of the other people who have similar names, but who knows what they're into, right?
They're probably not as cool as me.
But we're definitely, and I'm definitely going to have Dustin back on the show, because, I don't know of very many people that I can just sit and just talk about a subject that I really don't know a whole lot about for, we're going on an hour and 4 minutes now. And, he just brings so much passion to the table. And, again, like I said, if you are not into cars, check out the channel anyway. It's exciting stuff. I mean, he brings a fresh perspective to it. The editing, man, I'm a big fan of your editing, Dustin. I am a huge fan of that. It's a lot like, and he'll tell you, or he's about to tell you, that he was influenced by music videos. Is what he told me.
I always wanted to be a music video director, but I will say, actually, out of a lot of the car channels, like I told you, I'm not an egotistical person.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually really hard for me to self-promote, which might be one of the reasons that I haven't grown any faster.
Could be.
But but my editing to music is good.
Yes, it is. It's
Like
awesome.
I'm not ashamed. Like if I know I do something good, I'm not gonna be ashamed of it.
Oh, don't. Yeah, especially. Yeah, and I watch that stuff, and I dabble a little bit in Premiere and After Effects and stuff too sometimes. So, not as much as and I watch it and I see where he's hitting the beat and some of the camera angles and all that. I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that.
I'm,
Honestly,
you know,
I mean, the stuff.
I could use more J cuts and L cuts in my narration editing. I know that, but YouTube is not a place that respects filmic quality as much as they respect you getting a video out.
Right. That's true.
So straight cuts is, if it takes me 10 seconds, 15 seconds to do an L cut or a J cut, but I can do a straight cut in under 2 seconds. And then I make how many cuts in one video?
Yeah, you do quite a bit sometimes. I can see that for sure.
So, and I like jump cuts. I don't care. Like I know, like if I had 2 cameras and 2 camera angles, I wouldn't do jump cuts. But I've always been a fan of jump cuts.
Yeah, and we're getting ready to wrap it up, but I want to just say, just quickly and briefly, tell me a little bit about the GoPro situation, because the way you mount the GoPros to get that footage. Tell me a little bit about how that happened.
You know what? Like I've always, way back when, I was using mini DV cameras, okay, and I had 2 DVX 100Bs, which that's like a prosumer grade, so not quite a shoulder mount camera, but think about like if you've ever seen a skate video or something. So it's a heavy camera,
Okay.
but they had a lot of like refurbished little JVCs and Panasonic single chip, like the stuff that your mom shoots shaky footage of your sister's talent show with. You could get those for about $100. And back in the day, I bought 3 of them. And because GoPro didn't exist yet, and I bought some Woods suction grips, which if you want to use a full size camera, you definitely need to check out the Woods power grips and stuff. And I used to mount them on cars with mini DV cameras. And then when GoPro came out, I was like, wow, this is great. And I don't even have like my actual GoPro is actually probably about 10 years old. It's like a HD Hero 2.
Wow.
And I have a cheap Chinese Ekin H9. Cost me $50.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a Yi Lite action camera. Cost me $100. Yi, if you want to get a camera but you don't have a lot of money and you want an action camera, definitely look into Yi Technologies.
I've seen.
I'm not sponsored to say this.
Yeah.
I would love to be sponsored by Yi. If for some reason you listen to this and you want to give me free cameras,
Yeah.
I will never say no, and I will put your logo so big everywhere in my videos. But I use that, and I use Wish and Amazon a lot to find the mounts and the adapters and stuff because it's cheap.
Right.
And so I do that. But I will say the one place that I do not cheap out, and you should not cheap out, is on your suction cup mount.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine.
There are other specialty companies that probably make better mounts, but I only use GoPro mounts. I did use a cheap Chinese mount one time. And the first time I used it, my camera fell under a car and got rolled over by a tire.
Ooh.
So that was it. So I always use the $40 GoPro mounts. And I haven't had a failure yet. Knock on this wood table I'm sitting next to.
Yeah.
But I mount them on the glass and the fenders, and I just try to mount them. I have 3, like I said. And I'll either mount a variation on 2 cars, or I'll mount all 3 on 1 car and try to get like different angles with that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing car videography, like the minimum is a GoPro. I really want a drone right now.
Yeah.
but I hardly have time to mount the GoPros. Like I'm a single man operation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot more time consuming than you think just to get the angles right and everything like that. So, but yeah, if you're doing some type of videography that's action oriented, get a GoPro. And there are all kinds of channels. Like if you're a mountain biker, there will be channels that have videos dedicated to how to get cool mountain bike footage with your GoPro.
Makes sense. Good.
Love GoPros.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you wanted to see some of that awesome GoPro footage and all the other stuff that he does, man, honestly, check it out. And I'm not saying that just because he's a friend. If I did not know the guy, and I just came across this stuff, I would say, yes, this is very cool. I think you will find it very cool as well. Is Excite Video Magazine. Remember, it is EXITE. There's no C in that. It's on YouTube, but you can also find him Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I love some of the Instagram stuff he's doing. It's really good. Please check him out. I think you will be very, very pleased. We're going to have you back. Will you come back?
Oh, I'll be back. I got so many more things to say. We're going to have a series of these.
We could probably go another hour or so just, talking about the same stuff. And, I was about to say, he better be back because he's the only guest I've had so far. And God knows I may not get another one.
I'll definitely come back.
It's like, who's he got on this week? Oh, Dustin Mankin again. Okay.
I'll be your Jamie. Like, Jamie, could you look that up? I'm like, yeah. I'm on it. I had to make a Jamie joke if I'm on a podcast, and I don't know if you've watched. I don't know if you've watched him yet.
Yeah,
or not,
I haven't done it yet, but I need to, and I've written it down, so I will.
Okay.
Nice. Awesome. Dustin Mankin of Excite Video Magazine. Thank you for joining me here on. God, that sounds so formal, doesn't it? Just thanks for being here, man. Thanks for helping me out on this. I sure appreciate it. He's my first guest. He will be here later on. Hey, I got an idea. If you're listening on the Anchor app, by the way, and you have some questions for Dustin, if you're listening to this podcast on the Anchor app, leave us a message and I will record, or I will use that message that you record. And the next time he's on here, we'll have him answer your questions. How's that sound?
Yeah, I would love to do a Q&A.
That sounds
be amazing.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, and I'm terrible at wrapping things up. I usually, and believe me, if you know from back in the days when I was in college, and he knows, I used to be on the radio station, and my voice tracks would be like, 4 or 5 minutes long. He's like, wrap it up, Tim, 15 seconds, buddy. But in any case, but thanks a lot for joining me, Dustin. Thanks for being a sport, and I hope that this works out because we are using Zencastr, and so far it looks like it's really good. So hopefully it'll work out.
Yeah, I hope it works because it's a good way to get me on from overseas. So, and I was really looking forward to this podcast. So I'm really, really glad actually to be on your podcast because I'm actually a fan.
Thank you. Thank you. I need all the fans I can possibly get.
Oh, speaking of that,
yeah,
I did leave a review, guys. If you're listening to Tim on the iPhone podcast app, because I shared that link, leave him a review.
Yes,
I left you a review.
I love reviews. I love it when people talk about me. You can even call me a mumbling lumberjack if you want to. I'll take that. Just give me 5 stars, and I'll consider. I'll take that all day. All right, man. Thanks for joining me, Dustin. I sure appreciate it.
No problem, Tim. Take it easy.
You too, man. And there you have it. My very first podcast interview with Dustin Mankin of Excite Video Magazine. I hope you enjoyed it. For me, it was great to catch up with one of my old friends from college. He had the nerve to step out of his comfort zone and follow his passion. But I guess more importantly, especially for this program, he's building a community and building a really loyal community that he's very proud of, and I'm very proud of him. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed interviewing him. I'm looking for him to come back in the show or to the show in the future, and we'll talk about some more stuff then. You've been listening to the Tim Adkins Does Digital podcast. I'm Tim Adkins, your host. I am also the producer, the director, the mixer, the guy who sits in front of the microphone and then sits in front of his computer with Adobe Audition and mixes this thing. I do it all. I'm kind of a one-man show. You can find me on 18 different podcast networks. You can find me places such as iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, and several others. Now, videos of this podcast, if you are the type of person who watches videos of podcasts, I know it sounds weird, but a lot of people do it. They're available on Facebook and YouTube at ClickNeedle Digital Marketing. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Tim Adkins Online, one word. Also, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can look me up there. Support this podcast if you want to is Anchor FM/Tim Adkins/support. Your monthly contribution will help me continue to make this podcast, and you can support it for as little as $1 a month. Thanks for tuning in, and I will be back soon with more stuff from Tim Adkins Does Digital. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.